I think this is one of the biggest sins committed in all of newsletter download, which is that we're updating people on things that they don't need or care or want to be updated on, right?
Keep emails short, concise, and to the point.
Yeah, for me, I want to see newsletters more generally lean into thought leadership and value-adding insights. That's why I read them personally.
Welcome to Startup Teardown's Marketing Edition, where we strip away the marketing hype and show you what actually moves the needle for your startup and what's probably just burning cash. I'm Ryan Rutan from startups.com, and I am here with Tom Dewhurst and Tristan Gillen, the founders of Growth Division and GrowthX. We're going to serve up some really, really honest takes on the marketing campaigns, landing pages, and email sequences that startups are betting their entire futures on.
So Croissant is an application, mobile application, web application, where people can find co-working spaces across the city that they're in. So it's great for digital nomads who are going across to different cities, don't want to commit to a co-working space for long periods of time, and want to just drop into sometimes co-working spaces, sometimes restaurants. Essentially, they partner with locations across the city so people can just drop in and work. They can stay there the whole day without feeling guilty and having to buy loads of coffees. And typically, it's sort of a monthly membership. So that's essentially what it is. Makes sense to you guys?
Say it's ClassPass for co-working space.
That's a nice way of putting it, yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
I like the concept.
Yeah, but today we're not we're not tearing down the homepage. What we're going to be looking at is a newsletter. So I have a question for you guys. Firstly, how many newsletters do you subscribe to? Like, how many newsletters are coming into your inbox, let's say every week?
It's got to be 50 plus for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say probably like 10 to 15. I've tried to kind of keep it quite concise on my work email, maybe slightly more on my personal one.
I'd say I'm somewhere in between you guys, probably like 30 to 40 newsletters. Now, second question is, how many of those newsletters do you actually read consistently? So every, week you're looking at and reading, consuming the content of those newsletters.
But what I've actually started to do is warehouse all of them into a folder structure, and then I'm using AI to query it later to ask, hey, what's come up recently in a newsletter about this particular topic, and then it'll pull excerpts or point me back to the newsletter. So I'm hacking my way through getting what I need out of the 50 newsletters.
Well, Ryan's doing it much smarter way. I think I'm doing it as I keep the ones that I read regularly. But yeah, I've tried to sort of say if I don't read it at least like once a month, then I'm unsubscribing.
Yeah. So whilst we're going to be tearing down a specific newsletter today, I want you guys to be keeping in mind the broader purpose of what newsletters are, like why do companies send them, and are they actually useful if people aren't reading them? So this is the newsletter. I'm subscribed to it. I don't really know why or how. It's a classic one of those newsletters where I just receive them in my inbox and I haven't yet bothered to unsubscribe for it. But here it is, and it came into my inbox the other day, and I was just, giving it a little peruse and a little read, and I thought it'd be a nice one to tear down.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's actually quite wordy up top. I'm expecting like some bolded statement, maybe an H1. I kind of almost skipping to what's new in the Croissant app. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously the context of this newsletter is trying to be like a friendly, almost like an email, I think. But typical newsletters grab your attention with some key text up top.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, looking at the subject title, I didn't realize this, but it seems like they're going to be doing this monthly. This is the January update from the Croissant desk. I mean, I don't necessarily think that's like a massively appealing subject title. Do you just want to read a random update from one of these apps that you're subscribed to? Not sure.
I think this is one of the biggest sins committed in all of newsletter download, which is that we're updating people on things that they don't need or care or want to be updated on, right? Unless we're relatively clear that it's critical to what this user is trying to do, why are we giving them an update? So, look, there may be something really fantastic in here, but from a subject line standpoint, this is an entirely skippable one for me.
Agree with that. So if we scroll a little bit down, we can see what the content is. So the call to action is open the app and find your perfect workspace today. They've given us a bit of an update on some of the cities that they're in. Again, if I'm not in one of those cities, do I care about it?
Probably not. No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm in London or Cambridge and immediately turned off. But then again, that's not necessarily a bad thing because they are speaking to their audience, right? So in many ways, they're speaking to their customers, which is the right thing to do.
So this is one of the things with sort of general send to all newsletters, which newsletters typically are, is sending to a full database.
Yep.
Is that they're not relevant, they're not segmented most of the time. So as a person reading it, you're not getting personalized information that's relevant to you.
Yeah, because I think you could go even further on that line of argument to say, okay, Tristan's registered in Barcelona. I don't, therefore doesn't really care about Munich or Brussels. So Tristan just wants to see Barcelona workspaces available, right? So
A couple things you can do to elevate this and make this a bit more useful. If you're going to drop really highly specific information that you know is only going to be relevant to some of your users, make sure you nod at the rest of them. So in this statement, it says, we've added 30 plus new co-working spaces. Cool. To the how many do we already have? To the how many cities, right? We narrow this down. We added 30 new spaces in these 3 cities to a collection that already includes 50 cities with over 1,000, right? So that's where we can nod back to the fact that, oh, this specific piece of information isn't for you, but we are still for you, right? I think the danger you run here is if you scan this quickly, Tom, and you're in Cambridge and you look at that and go, Munich, Barcelona, Brussels. Nope, none of that works for me. Bye, unsubscribe.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to nod to the broader audience here at least.
Yeah. And then just scrolling down, we've got a blog post. Again, they've probably got someone writing some blog content and they think, oh, we need to distribute that. Newsletter's perfect. Maybe this is of interest to me if people are interested in sort of hybrid working, which I guess their audience is. So there's some semi-relevance there. I think a lot of people do this. They just distribute their content on these. Then we've got a nod to, hey, you can earn some money if you invite your friend. Again, a nice call to action maybe, but there's not really any sort of actual button here to do it. It's just a random piece of text there. So
And just to call out one there as well, Tristan, like obviously this is relevant to those locations, but then this image is about the workers lead in London. I would have thought that, you'd want some continuity with the point of the email. So you'd have, here's our top spot in Barcelona as an example. It seems a bit at odds with the point of the email, the image.
Yeah, the billing update. So things like this, like if this is actually critical and important and people need to know this, or this is something that people have been complaining about and are like, you got me messed up on VAT, then this feels like it should be kind of its own update, right? Like this should be a transactional email that lets you know how this is going to work. This shouldn't be part of a newsletter. If this is actually important, then it shouldn't be buried down here. If it's not actually important, we shouldn't be saying it at all.
So I guess going back to the original questions that I raised at the beginning, are newsletters a bit outdated? Are they still relevant? Do people read them? Are they worthwhile? And what's the point in newsletters?
I think there's a number of reasons that newsletters are still relevant, but I don't think that they're blanket relevant for every type of business and every type of audience. I think you really have to think about when, why, and how should we be engaging with our audience. Now, if this is something where you want to stay relevant, you want to stay in inbox, maybe we provide just enough good information and we're not there too often. If this is a campaign usage tool, right? Meaning that like maybe Tristan, you use this when you travel, maybe when you go back to London, now Cambridge to see Tom, or when you pop over to Madrid to see me, you need a co-work, and so you're going to use this, but it's not an all the time thing. Then it's good to have some periodic touch base with a client to make sure that they remember to use you when they're in those places. So I think from a periodic sort of an irregular touch, newsletters can work well. I think we're just using them to update our customers. If our customers want updates on us, they'll come and find them. So I think that's not a great use for this.
Yeah, for me, I want to see newsletters more generally lean into thought leadership and value-adding insights. That's why I read them personally. And so if they're not giving me something that I can learn or think about, then I'm probably unsubscribing. Like just sending this kind of company update that, as you said, Ryan, is a bit too soft in a number of areas and too many call to actions. It doesn't add much value to me, and I think it's still too vague in terms of its targeting. So for me, this is a bit weak on both counts.
Yeah, I agree. So I suppose to wrap up today, the main learnings are only really send newsletters when you're sending something relevant, something that your audience can learn from, and try and segment as much as possible so that you're personalizing and you're only sending to the portion of people who are actually going to care about this specific update. Keep emails short, concise, and to the point, and try and just be specific when you're emailing people as well.